Ever since Blake Shelton and Gwen Stefani got together in 2014, we've all been wondering what their family actually looks like. Of course, we all know that Gwen has 3 children from a previous relationship with Gavin Rossdale. But how involved is Blake in all of it? As it turns out, it seems like he's a pretty big part of these kids' lives, and you'll never believe how he's managed to support them, and how he really feels about his relationship with them. When Blake and Gwen first got together, they definitely seemed like an odd pair. She obviously already had kids, and they also came from 2 completely different parts of the music industry. But it looks like Gwen has all but embraced the country lifestyle, and it seems like even her kids are doing the same. Recently, the oldest son, Kingston Rossdale, was actually seen taking the mic at Blake's bar in Oklahoma. But surprisingly enough, he didn't sing any kind of punk song like his mom is known for. Instead, he decided to sing an original country song, just like Blake would. The entire performance was shocking to everyone, since no one really knew that nearly the whole family would be performing. Earlier that day, Blake took to social media to tell everyone that he was making a surprise visit to perform that night. But he never mentioned that Gwen and her son Kingston would also be taking the stage. And this was actually Kingston's first ever stage performance. Clips of the performance were shared across the internet, and you could even see Gwen on the side getting super emotional. It really seemed like she was super proud of her son. At the end of his performance, Kingston said thank you to everyone for being there, and that really meant a lot to him. And before he left the stage, Blake went up to him and gave him a huge hug. It was pretty obvious that he was incredibly proud of him too. While it isn't surprising that Kingston would be interested in becoming a singer like his mom, it is interesting that it looks like he followed in Blake's footsteps instead of Gwen's. But it's very possible that as he continues to get older, he will dive more into the country music industry, with Blake by his side every step of the way. The whole thing was also one of the first times that we got to see how Blake and Kingston interact with each other in real life. But of course, their obviously close relationship isn't all that surprising, considering what Blake has said about his stepsons in previous interviews. In one interview, Blake went into detail about what it was like to become a father to 3 children all at once. And he said that it was completely different for him at first, and that he had to adjust his life. He said that he realized that even when it came to the smallest things, he now had to think about how it would work, what the boys would think, and how it would affect them. In another interview with People just last December, Blake said that being a stepfather has completely changed his perspective on life. He said that his new sons have helped him to learn something about himself that he didn't know before, that he was more than just a country singer or a goofy guy. He's learned that he's actually someone that they can rely on. Being a parent was a responsibility that he never had before, and he never even considered that he would have in his life. It's more about learning how to put yourself away so that you can focus on the children and allow them to move ahead of you. In fact, it turns out that he loves being a stepfather so much that he's decided to put his career on hold for the time being for his stepsons. In the interview, he said these days spending time with his family is his top priority, which is why he actually decided to take a step away from his role in The Voice. And stepping away from that show was a huge deal for him since he had been on it for 23 seasons. But he has a close bond with all of Gwen's children, and he decided that he can no longer be the first person he thinks about. Now he really has to think about raising these children and spending as much time with them as possible to support them as they grow. And unfortunately, he just couldn't do both. Despite how much he loved being on The Voice, Blake said that if he was going to do the job right, he had to be all in. But there was just no way he could be all in when he has so much going on with his family life. And both his family and the show deserve more than just half of him. At the end of the day, he said that being a stepfather was a much more important job to him right now, and that he didn't want to regret anything. In his People interview, he said you never really know what your regrets in life are going to be until you look back on them. But he felt like if he stayed with the show, he would have regretted not spending more time with the people who matter most in his life. He also mentioned that it was really important for him to come to the realization that his life is no longer about him, which he said is something all parents should come to terms with, because if you don't, you'll only be missing out. Of course, Blake only became an official stepfather to Gwen's 3 children in 2021 after they got married, but they've been building a strong relationship ever since Blake and Gwen got together in 2014. These days, it looks like the family has been having a blast spending time together. Just a few months ago, Gwen shared a video to her Instagram that showed the whole family lending a helping hand on the family farm in Oklahoma. The video even showed Kingston driving one of the farm's vehicles. Right now, Kingston even has a serious girlfriend named Lola, who can be seen in Gwen's Instagram from time to time. So it looks like they really are one big happy family. And even though Gwen's children aren't technically Blake's, that doesn't seem to matter to Blake at all. He's fully committed to being the best father he can for them. And he has an incredibly close relationship with all of them. But there's no doubt that Blake will be helping all of them in whatever they want to do in their lives. Based on their recent outings, it looks like Kingston is definitely interested in a country music career. As someone who was a mentor on The Voice for so long, and who also has his own wildly successful personal career, Blake is probably the best person to help him. I guess only time will tell if we'll get to see more of Kingston performing. And I'm sure that Blake will be there for him either way and no matter what. I mean, who knows? Maybe they'll even record something together one day. But until then, what do you guys think about this? Did you know that Blake has such a strong relationship with all of Gwen's children? And what do you think about Blake's decision to step away from The Voice in order to spend more time with his family? Do you think he could still have done both? Let me know in the comments below.